Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype Episode 17, recording on June 19th, 2020. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
My name is Andrew.
And big episode last week talking about the PS5, the future of gaming, and gotta say, another press conference this week that we'll be talking about. A little underwhelming after that, the EA Play, which was originally part of E3. So we're going to go through all the huge announcements in that video last night and talk a bit about what we played. Last of Us 2 is also out today. I'm about 6 hours in. I'll be mentioning that, and I have a little list of techgasms so far. No spoilers, just little
Top
things.
5 techgasms?
No, I have more than 5. So
whoa.
There are 7, 8 techgasms, and Huck mentioned some that I didn't even see. So this is just very specific to me, little things that I appreciate. I remember talking when we reviewed The Last of Us a long time ago about the whiskey glass at the beginning and the liquid moving around in the glass and the couch squishing when you sat on it and stuff like that, and what Naughty Dog is known for, these little touches. And they're everywhere in this game, gotta say. And just overall art direction is ridiculous so far. So we'll get into that later, though. Let's first get into the EA Play press conference, which happened last night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I got there about 10 minutes late. I started at the beginning in case I missed something huge. Might not have needed to do that, but we'll get into it. So overall, pretty underwhelming. I think that's the general consensus. There was one game that I'm definitely really interested in, a second surprise game that I thought had a really interesting concept, but we'll go through the stuff in order because pretty dry for content. Let's be honest. Let's juice this thing. So, first announcement, games wise, was Apex Legends and some new content, a new season. Crossplay. I mean, the big thing about this press conference to me, I don't know how much this has been reported before. I think it has. EA committing to Steam. Obviously, they've been all about Origin, and this felt like we're going to get on Steam. We're bringing EA access to Steam and committing to the Switch and other platforms as well, and crossplay on everything. And it still feels, this is like, it's not a bad thing, but my thoughts were, it feels like 5 years behind. And I know everyone hates EA, and I think some things I get and other things just feel like, you know, blowing something out of proportion in terms of like the Mass Effect animation bugs and stuff like that. And people love to hate on EA. But it does feel like this is like them just kind of doing damage control and making sure no one hates them after watching this thing. Like, everything is an announcement to make sure no one gets mad at us by the time we're done. And I mean, that's okay. I was very aware of it when I was watching it, but Apex Legends, I've played it a bit. I never really got into it. But I don't know. Are you guys into this game? Did this mean anything to you? Have you tried it?
No.
It means absolutely nothing.
Okay. I've heard really good things, and the learning curve, I don't know why it was, whenever I started it, it was like, it wasn't connecting for me. But now that I've played a lot of other Battle Royale stuff, and I'd be curious to go back because I do like respawn stuff. And I don't know, it looks interesting, and I know a lot of people love it. So might be worth dipping into there, but that one really didn't do much for me. Anyone else have anything to add on that one?
I didn't realize there was 7 or 5 seasons already. Like, yeah. I was surprised that, is a season in this game like a year? Like, has this game been out for 5 years?
No, they're typically, they vary. I mean,
like 6 months or something?
Sometimes not even. It's totally game dependent, and sometimes like they extend them because they're still working on stuff. I think it's pretty laissez-faire when it comes to season length and stuff like that. I could be wrong. It's certainly not something I play a lot or know a lot about. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about these games. I mean, Fortnite, I'm a little bit more familiar with, I guess. But it is interesting, this idea of like the seasons and how that's become a thing with these games. And I just found it interesting, they were talking about certain things get removed from the game, certain game modes are changing, and it's like, I guess you don't, like, do you have a choice? Like, if you run your own server or something, can you still change that stuff? Or is it basically like when that season's out, that's what the game is for that length of time until they change everything again? Is that how it works?
They're constantly doing tweaks within the season. So adding playlists, I would assume, like they talked about a new game type that is exclusive to a season. Content, in particular, cosmetic content, is specific to a season. And I mean, you've probably seen Fortnite within a season, incentives to keep playing and spend money and stuff like that. It is an interesting business model, and we haven't talked too much about it. I prefer it for some games. I'm kind of a completionist. So unless I can play that game explicitly, it's tough for me to get invested in that model. I guess it doesn't matter, but it almost detracts someone from me from playing, because I'm never going to get everything in the game. And I know that's like a weird attitude to have, but it feels like I'm already behind where everyone else is, just not knowing where things are at. And it's accelerating so rapidly. Games are getting better at introducing new people into these ideas. I guess with Call of Duty, which I've played the most, it's not bad. There's like a battle pass, and at least it's some bonus for playing and stuff like that. But I have been addicted to the nature of that before with Call of Duty World War II and spent a lot of money, which I deeply regret. I've done that with that game and Plants vs. Zombies, the first one. And I'm like, what? Looking back on it now, I mean, I don't care, but it definitely seems like a waste.
Well, but I mean, it's interesting though, just because, you say that you feel like everybody knows certain maps or whatever, but I would think the whole thing with the seasons is that it kind of levels the playing field every time there's a new season, because now there's changes and everybody's got to get used to it again, right?
Well, I don't think there's that major changes. Obviously, it depends on the game you're playing. I haven't played all these games, so I can't speak to that, but they had one or two new maps, typically a new weapon that everyone's trying to get that seems to be OP for the beginning, and everyone wants it. And I'm sure that's probably intended to get hype around that stuff, but it's not that big a thing. I don't think it resets that much, to be honest.
I guess not. I just found it interesting that they said they were retiring certain maps. It just seems like I get adding new content, but it's interesting that it's a choice to remove certain things and then maybe potentially bring them back again in a later season or something.
Well, Destiny 2 talked about that a lot too in their announcement last week or beginning of this week, where the game is just getting too big. And these games are 160 gigs on hard drives sometimes, if not more. And like they have to do that to save space. And
that's true.
They can support. So I see it as kind of a necessity, and I'm okay with it. If I loved these games, maybe I'd care more. But I definitely get the idea behind it. And bringing stuff back, I think, is a cool thing. And if you missed something a long time ago, saying, okay, I think they should do that more. Bring stuff back on a limited basis so you have a chance to catch up and get stuff that other people have that you missed out on if you're late to the game with this stuff.
Right.
Okay. Next announcement was Sims 4, which, I mean, really wasn't a ton of stuff other than this is where they put in there that it's coming to Steam, and EA Access coming to Steam was all kind of lumped into this. I don't know. Not much to say here.
The only thing I have to say, and this is going to sound again like me just not understanding a game that's obviously pretty popular and it's been around for a while, but it just seems strange. Like a lot of the content they're promoting is stuff like characters going off on adventures and vacations and all these cool locales, and it's like, but how does that work in The Sims? Like the whole point is just you live a life and build a house. Like, it's kind of weird.
I mean, I think it's one of the top selling, if not the top selling game of all time, and I mean it's one of the biggest casual games out there that tons of people play, all types of gamers. And I mean that's what their video was about too, about inclusivity and diversity, which I think is a cool thing about that game. And I think The Sims is a game that is known for that. And these expansion packs are more about functionality that you couldn't simulate before, as far as I know, like occupations, pets, all this different stuff that it wasn't in the game before, because you can't simulate everything about life in the first version of the game. So it's about, okay, now you can do this. Now you can try this type of career. Who knows? And I don't even know the extent. I know there's a lot of DLC packs, but I mean, so I don't think they announced any new stuff. It was more, I remember her saying something like, we have no new DLC. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know.
I think she said there's going to be more announcements coming.
Yeah,
they didn't have anything specific.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a Sims fan. I actually am kind of curious to check it out. I've always been curious. I have not done it yet, though. Maybe this summer, although I've said that many times. How about you guys? Any comments on the Sims announcement? Or I guess now would be the time to talk about the idea of EA going to Steam.
I've only played The Sims 1, I think, the first one that came out. I know my sister was big into it. She bought a bunch of the expansion packs and stuff, but other than that, I haven't really touched them. I think I played The Sims 4 when it came to consoles just to see how they would handle it, but I haven't done too much with it. I think the push for EA Access on Steam is interesting, though, especially now since they've had EA Access available on, Xbox for how many years now? 4 or 5? And then they added it to PlayStation just last year, right? I think it was pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with PlayStation Now, PS Plus, Xbox Gold, and Game Pass, it seems like you were saying at the start, it seems like they're just chasing right now. Like, you already had EA Access. I don't know why it took you so long to realize that these subscription things were going to be popular.
Well, I think
services.
I think it was more about, well, in the case of PlayStation, how to integrate it into their marketplace, how that works in terms of working with the store so that you get stuff for free and it works with the PlayStation Store. And they probably had to negotiate agreements and work together to do stuff like that. With Xbox, I feel like EA has like a longer partnership where they worked on, and I'm guessing Microsoft's store is, because it handles PC stuff, it's much more adaptive to weird concepts like that. And they have ways to develop for that more so than PlayStation. With Steam, I think it's more about EA was committed to their origin because they thought they had exclusive games that why should we let these other companies take a 30% cut of when people want these games so bad, they'll download our app and we get that 30%. So to me, it was purely motivated out of money, why it wasn't on Steam. And I think this is now they're seeing, well, maybe we can make more money, or is it worth spending all this money on a service that people don't? I mean, I guess it's basically saying, is it worth paying Steam whatever they want? And who knows if they negotiated different terms with Steam about percentages and stuff like that.
Maybe. The Epic Store, I was just going to say the Epic Store might be a little bit of a wake-up call for them too, since they basically came out of nowhere and within, a year has probably taken a pretty big cut of stuff just because of how much promotion they're doing. I think a lot of people are slowly buying stuff on the Epic Store, especially since they're doing this big push for the exclusive deals and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a feeling that they saw the success of Epic Store and were like, well, we're not going to do that push. We might as well try to diversify and just take as much money as we can. Plus, I think people have been wanting PC versions of, like, specifically their sports games for a long time, which I think they fought against. But I think now that they're on the Battlefield Frostbite engine, I think it's a lot easier for them to port stuff over to PC. They don't have like a different engine running for each sports game that then they need a team to handle, making sure it runs on all the different graphics cards and computer configurations. Basically, you just let the Frostbite team handle that, and it should just work out of the box.
Yeah, I certainly remember the days in the 90s when the PC version of hockey were completely different games almost.
Yeah.
There was very little to share between them, I would think. But I mean, it's a good thing, I guess. I think it's a good value. EA Access is still a good value for people, and I think it's a good move going to Steam and just conceding that it's weird because with movies and entertainment, they're kind of going in different directions where I feel like everything is becoming more fractured with television and film, right? Everyone has their own streaming service or exclusive content delivery. But with games, people tried to do that and now they're all reconverging, and the expansion is more on like stores or storefronts that have everything. I guess that kind of happens in media where Google Play, Apple, whatever you use, all have the same content. They're all available there for purchase. More for streaming services, it's a little different, but I don't know. It's a weird new era of instant access, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
The other interesting thing is that EA Access has been on Microsoft for a long time, but the games that are on Game Pass, or I guess just EA Access in general, they don't have the sports games that you can play. I don't think they have the Play Anywhere stuff set up for them. Now is Play Anywhere only Game Pass stuff? Like the PC cross-platform stuff? Or is that all Microsoft titles? Or all Xbox titles, I mean? Do you guys know?
Well, it's not just Game Pass. I know that for sure. I have some games that I bought for Xbox that had that option.
Okay.
Yeah, they had to support it though. I think Resident Evil was one of those games that would work on both, and
okay,
we're probably testing. So I guess we can talk about that now too. This Play Anywhere announcement, is that what it's called officially? I thought this was pretty sloppy the way it was handled, and
I don't know if I even heard about this.
It was more like Xbox talking about continuing saves on any platform and smart delivery. Sorry, is what they called it. Xbox Smart Delivery. And
so this is outside of the EA Play we're talking about here. This was another announcement that happened this week.
I thought Huck was getting into that as well. I was missing.
I thought this was already announced.
It was, but I think they gave more details, right?
Oh,
they kind of rebranded it. This has existed for well, not forever, but for a long time, as far as I know. Like, I could continue my saves with cloud save, whether it was on PC, Xbox. That all worked fine. I'm pretty sure that was already working with beta xCloud stuff as well. The Xbox One X and S automatically had ways to say whether you want to install the best version of this game based on which version of a console you have, which was also part of this announcement. So it felt like a weird, like, maybe you don't know about this yet. What makes Xbox so cool in terms of integrating across multiple platforms or across console generations? We handle all this stuff, which, I mean, maybe not everyone knows about that stuff. Unless I'm missing something, which commenters feel free to share. I just don't know what it is. All this stuff existed in some form already. It was more of a rebranding.
Well, I still think the big thing with this, which they already talked about, is just that if you buy a current gen version of a game and then eventually you buy the Xbox Series X, you'll be able to get that version of the game for free.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of existed already, where if you bought an Xbox One or an Xbox One S or an Xbox One X, when you switched between those, if you went from a 1 to an X, you could set it up to download the better version or something like that, or use HDR, and it would download better textures and change the installed version of the game, whether based on what console you were using. So it does feel like a rebranding exercise to me. I might be missing something though. I did not look into it too much. I kind of was like, okay, knew that already, but
it sounded like rebranding to me, but it could also, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe an answer or like a counter to the Sony GTA 5 announcement that they put in their press conference, where they're like, hey, new content or whatever they even announced, I don't know, like coming to PS5, like, and Microsoft's basically just saying like, yeah, ours will just do that. You don't have to buy GTA 5 Xbox Series X edition, and you just get it. Which which is maybe why they brought it up again. Something
Yeah,
like that.
I don't know about the GTA 5 thing specifically, but it just felt like Sony had their press conference last week, didn't talk too much about backwards compatibility. So Microsoft just took the opportunity to be like, hey, by the way, in case you missed it, we do a lot of backwards compatibility and we have this smart delivery feature. So yeah, I think that's all it was.
It's pretty compelling too if you want to buy a game that's coming out that's going to be like technically cross-gen, like let's say Cyberpunk. You buy that and then you buy a Series X a few months later and you automatically have, the Series X version. You don't have to go and buy, like there's nothing like that I know of for PlayStation 4 to PS5 right now.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. It's more like PlayStation didn't talk about that at all. So even the GTA 5 thing, I would assume, at least to what I recall, they were talking about the online version of GTA carrying over, right? And right. I mean, that stuff's all stored on servers anyway. So like that's not part of your local save game file, I would assume. So PlayStation really hasn't addressed if you buy a game and then continue. Well, first of all, they haven't addressed whether or not you get the same game twice, and if your save games are compatible either. So, or whether developers have to manually do conversion stuff and have systems to let you do that. So maybe that's all it was about. I'm not sure. That would suck though, if you couldn't continue games on a PS5. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it is a definite plus to Xbox.
Yep.
Okay,
back
next
to EA Play.
Yeah, next section about EA Originals, which
we skipped the little Command and Conquer.
It's
remastered trailer thing.
Yeah, which this came out a while ago, didn't it?
I think this version came out a couple weeks ago, like not too long.
I'm confusing it with Warcraft 3 remastered. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was, maybe people like this. It's pretty low key in terms of an HD remaster, right? Like, it seems like it's preserving a lot of the original sprites. Like when they did a old version to new version, I barely saw a difference. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't know if other people felt the same way. It did not. I was expecting, a current gen game, and I was like, oh.
I don't even know if I noticed that they did a comparison when they were doing it.
Which some people probably love. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of games would have two versions. It would be switch back to original graphic mode or some brand new like amazing graphics version of this. Something like Full Throttle was like that. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely didn't move my needle. Can we move
needles
on?
Moving.
Okay. All right. Next was EA Originals, which was announced a while back, and surprisingly, not that many games have come out. So this was like their embracing of indie and all this stuff. Again, a move to make them more likable, in my opinion, and including how those games are presented on different systems. We talked about the preambles of text about these were made with the intention of love and families and all this stuff. Like that seems to be what the EA Originals brand is all about, and supporting indie games from a company that's known for being very capitalistic in many ways. But the first one was It Takes Two, which is a new game from the developers who made A Way Out and Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. And I mean, the thing about this is it feels like him trying to be this face in gaming for this company. And he's pretty cocky. I know I can appreciate that the video is leaning into his cockiness. Like they're aware of how cocky he is and like they address it in the video, but I mean, he's setting himself up for lofty expectations because he's so passionate. And I mean, I played a bit of A Way Out with Reed Farrington and it was pretty fun. I am curious to finish it, but in all honesty, I've never finished Brothers and I've never finished A Way Out. So I would like to, but the game seemed kind of interesting. Like I like the general idea, and I liked the hype he talked about in terms of narrative and design fusing, and his teasing of what the ending would be without a clear ending, or like a roller coaster ride into space or a rocket ship. I don't even remember, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have much else to say other than sounds good. Let's see when it launches. But what did you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I played of both of those two other games, and I had not really seen this guy speak before, so I was not. I mean, I guess they showed some clips of him from like award shows or something. I guess maybe he's known from that, but I was kind of like, oh, this is the guy who made these games, and yeah, he came off as like, yeah, he's trying pretty hard to hype this thing up. And I thought there were a couple things in what they showed of that new game that looked cool, but I was like, wow, they really didn't show much. And that was kind of my impression for almost everything in this whole press conference. Was like, I was waiting for something big, and then it would just be like a 3-second clip of something, and that was it. And it just felt like, okay, I'm intrigued, you've got me, but then you didn't follow through.
Yeah, I thought the art style was kind of neat, almost like watercolor or something.
Yeah.
And I've played through Brothers. I really liked it. I haven't played through A Way Out, though I want to. Yeah, his passion definitely bleeds through. I don't know if he'll be able to back it up, but I mean, he's got the backing of EA. It looks like it could be a fun game. And it sounds like that's his game style. That's sort of like what he's going for, is that sort of co-op storytelling. I guess not single person, but like not a competitive, like a cooperative 2-player game. That seems to be what he focuses on. Brothers was that, A Way Out was that. This looks like that's going to be it. So, I mean, it's good he's found his little niche, and no one else really makes this type of game. So I'm interested in what comes of it. But like Dwight said, they didn't really show much. Like showing a roller coaster, I mean, that could have been a mobile VR game. Like, who knows what that is, like.
For some reason, the idea of marrying design with narrative, I do feel like What Remains of Edith Finch is a good example of that in terms of a smaller scale indie game. I don't know if the gameplay is as complex or narratively driven as this game, because there wasn't much to see, but I think there are some games out there that do that in cool ways. So I'm intrigued. And
I do like the co-op thing. I mean, that is a niche that not a lot of people are focusing on. So I'm down for that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we need to stream A Way Out.
Let's do it.
Make it happen. It's short, I think. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like 5 hours or something.
The next EA original was Lost in Random. And when I was talking at the beginning of the show, this is the game I was alluding to. It was the developers of Faye, which I've never played. It looked intriguing, but reviews were not amazing from what I remember. If people disagree or played it and really liked it, please let us know. But this was a very interesting concept to me of randomness and a literal character that is a dice, or a die, I should say. And there was no gameplay in how that works, but that seemed like a pretty meta, interesting concept for a game that I was very excited by. And especially the idea of embracing the chaos of randomness and how their gameplay is how they're intending to do that also sounds like it has a lot of potential. So I love the art style, clearly influenced by Tim Burton stuff, I would say.
Yep.
Specifically, probably, what's Henry Selick's animation studio?
Leica?
Leica, no. Yeah, like that style as well. And recent releases that weren't related to Tim Burton. I think it looks really cool. Again, not a lot to go on gameplay-wise, but I'm very intrigued by the idea. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, this was the highlight of the show for me. Again, didn't show as much as maybe I would have liked, but I definitely liked the look of it. hard to tell exactly. It just seemed like a puzzle platformer, I guess, but that's cool. Was this the one that I can't remember? There was one game where it started with the developers talking, and it was like an animated sequence with the developers talking about the making of the game. Was this the one, or was it something else? Do you guys remember?
They kicked off this whole section with like a little bit of an animated section.
Oh, maybe
this
that's
one
what
I think
was.
they showed. This one it had two guys talking, and they had some concept art, I think.
Oh yeah, right. Because they actually had the like it seemed like the actual clay models for the characters or whatever.
Huck's right. It was like all the developers, Zoink, like Hazelight, all animated versions of them in Final. I can't remember if Final Strike was part of it, but if that's actually an
EA. That whole animated part though, I was just thinking, wow, a lot of work went into this.
I was thinking the same thing.
For just a quick press conference thing. It's kind of weird, but I guess that's.
I wonder if they just did it for E3, like they kind of had all this stuff ready to go for E3, and then hoping it would maybe go through, and then it didn't. So they're like, "Well, we spent all this money on it, might as well just put it up there."
Yeah.
My view of this game though looked interesting. Nothing blew me away as far as like what they showed gameplay wise. Like a lot of it was just a cinematic or a person just walking, from what I remember. So nothing really other than the art style really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Also reminded a bit of Contrast.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Next game is Rocket Arena, and I'm assuming this game was probably sold on its pitch or how it's being summarized in other places. Overwatch meets Smash Brothers with rockets, or I'm sure also pulling in a bit of Rocket League as well, just in terms of the name and stuff like that. It feels like an elevator pitch game. That was my reaction to it. I wasn't immediately intrigued by it. That's not to say it couldn't be fun, but it felt like almost like a marketing meeting turned into a game. I don't know.
Yes.
I know I'm being really cynical, and I don't like being this cynical with EA stuff, but that's what I was thinking when I was watching this.
Well, I mean, the guys who pitched it to EA definitely knew how to push their buttons, because I could see this being a game EA would love. Like, what's that? Overwatch makes a lot of money. Rocket League makes a lot of money. And Smash Brothers makes a lot of money. This sounds amazing.
Well, yeah, if I was the makers of Rocket League, I would be pretty pissed about the title, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, I get that there are literal rockets in this game, but I mean, come on, that's so close to Rocket League.
Well, and it's interesting too, from like, I've never played Overwatch, but doesn't Overwatch have different weapons? Isn't there weapon variety? Doesn't Smash Brothers have weapon variety? Like, I find it hard to believe that you're going to create action brawling game with literally only one weapon.
Well, I mean, I think this is also based on, I remember playing rockets only in Halo a long time ago, and it is its own kind of fun game mode that they've expanded out into this. I'm sure there's a bit more to it than just rockets. Maybe not, but
yeah, but they didn't call it Rocket Halo.
Yeah, but I mean,
they had Halo with a
Rocket
tiny
only multiplayer
subgenre. I don't know.
I'm actually curious, and I think there is a market for, multiplayer games that kids can play as well. And I think this fits in nicely with that. So all that, I know it sounds mean when I say stuff like that, but it does kind of feel like a marketing developed game. But who knows? Could be good.
The good thing is the art was polished. It was very polished looking. So they will be able to attract people, I think, with that art style. But I can't imagine they'd be able to get away with releasing this as like a full price game.
Yeah, they didn't really talk about the pricing model. I'm assuming it's free to play, but maybe not. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Maybe they're waiting to decide how to approach it based on how people react to it. I have no idea.
Just to touch on the EA Originals in general, I found it interesting that the EA Originals has been going on for quite a few years now, and it seems like this company that just made the Rocket Arena is only, I think, the fourth company that they've announced under this like EA Originals banner, and the other three companies have already put out 2 games. So it looks like they're not even really pursuing companies to participate in EA Originals, because this is Hazelight's second game under the EA Originals. Lost in Random, I think, put out a game before, right? They said those guys.
I think they worked on games. I don't know if it was that company.
They were Faye. That's
Faye. Yeah.
All right.
And then the Twine game that Dwyer likes,
Unravel.
I think those are the other guys. Also, back to the Faye game. I played it for a bit.
Sea of Solitude. I'm just kind of looking up EA Originals.
Oh, Sea of Solitude? Okay, I've heard of that game.
But it is in terms of an EA original and the indie spirit, it really feels like AA games almost. Like these are pretty big teams. I feel like it might help the Originals brand, like to give money to smaller games, different stuff. Like these all feel very similar in terms of level of polish, and they do feel to be playing in the new AA space, let's say, or something in between. That they're short, highly polished games, which isn't a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but I don't necessarily feel the indie spirit with these, which I guess could be expected when coming from, EA. Again, I hate hating on EA, but I just I can't help it with some of this stuff.
I actually like that it's in that sort of AA space, because that is an area that seems to have died pretty much everywhere else. No publishers are really taking on games like this other than these EA ones.
I like everything they're doing it. I just wish we talked about that video, right? Of how much money went into that animation thing. Like that could be almost a game for a smaller studio. Like,
yeah, probably.
Let's take this EA Originals thing and put it towards something like that. Now, I know an argument could be, well, that visual effects studio that made that video, that's still maybe small teams working on stuff. I have no idea who made it, and I don't want to get into a Pandora's box of who's getting the money for this stuff. But
the Unravel team made it. They said, you're not making Unravel 3, you're just making an ad for our next E3 campaign.
So I would like to see, in addition to these, and I agree that's cool that they are kind of AA games, some other smaller stuff too. But whatever. This is getting really nitpicky.
They should, though. They should branch out. Like, if they want to have this real EA Originals brand, why not like spread it around to a bunch of different teams that do different size games with different size budgets? Seems smart to me.
But I mean, it kind of makes me wonder, like I see what Frank's saying, and it does kind of make you think, well, maybe it's just a front, it's just something to make people think they care about indie games, but really they don't, because they're not putting, they're not bringing a lot of teams on board, but maybe they approach a lot of developers and they just don't want to be involved with EA. I mean, that could be a possibility too.
That could be too. And it is because it's tough to know someone's true intentions, right? Like a company like EA, because of their reputation, which like I said, sometimes seems fair, sometimes it doesn't, in comparison to Nintendo, and contrasting those two companies in terms of their motives being making money and how one is loved and one is loathed. I don't know. Maybe they are trying to do good things and we just kind of spin it cynically because of things we've known about them in the past. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. And there are positive things that should be, those are good things. It's tough to look at them in a bad light. It's just tough to turn off this kind of cynical mindset with looking at their stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're aware of that. Like, I'm sure it's going to take time and a lot of stuff for them to kind of change that reputation. But honestly, I think gamers are pretty fickle in that sense too, where a really good game or a few really good games can help to turn that tide as well. And that's probably the biggest issue, that there doesn't seem to be a lot of great new games. But segueing with that, I do have to say Star Wars Squadrons, the next, probably the biggest game of their video, seems really cool. And obviously the highlight to me is this idea of being able to do everything in VR. I played the VR mission in Battlefront 2. Was it Battlefront 2 or Battlefront 1? No, Battlefront 1. And I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun, maybe a bit on rails. So I think if they can do the single player campaign right, and if multiplayer is fun in VR, I think that has a lot of potential, and it looked really polished. I'm excited for this game, I have to say. And there's not a lot of new games. I guess Cyberpunk, and maybe I'm forgetting something, in September and October. Looks like it's going to be kind of dry until the new consoles come out. So I think they have an opportunity to get a lot of people interested in this game. What do you guys think?
I think it's good.
I'm definitely excited for this. I mean, obviously the VR thing is the big selling point for me as well. I'm trying to think of other games. Like I never played X-Wing, TIE Fighter, or any of those on PC. I did play a little bit of was it Rogue Squadron, the GameCube one, which I enjoyed. It feels like it's time for a new one of these kinds of games. So yeah, for sure.
I played through all those X-Wing, TIE Fighter. I probably played through TIE Fighter 3 times. Played all the Rogue Leader, or whatever they were called, Rogue Squadron on those games. I loved them. This one looked really, really good. Like, obviously the visuals are incredible. I found the HUD a little distracting, like the actual ship. It seemed to just take up so much screen real estate that it was kind of hard to like track where things were going. I know in like TIE Fighter, the originals, there was a similar issue, but it was really easy to just like pull up, the solar map or whatever and look where you were and track all the stuff. I'm assuming there's enough buttons on a controller to handle that kind of stuff now, but I know on PC it was like there was like 25 buttons you had to memorize to play that game properly. And especially they even showed like, adjusting your shield strength to get more power to your engines. Like that was like a specific key on the keyboard. So I don't know if they'll just have like a bunch of modifier buttons to give all the options you need, or how in depth they're going to go with the single player aspect, how similar to TIE Fighter, because TIE Fighter more had missions that you're trying to complete. But yeah, I thought it looked really good, and it comes out. They announced October 2nd, which is pretty close, which what Frank was saying. Now, Cyberpunk got pushed to November. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, when did that happen? How did I miss
just like
that?
today or yesterday?
I was expecting.
Yeah, so they have a little less competition now, and yeah, it does seem like holiday is surprisingly empty of games, but this could really do well for them, I think.
I think so too. I mean, obviously there's an interesting design dilemma here when you talk about all the buttons and the cockpit of, if it's multiplayer, they say you can play against someone in VR versus someone who's not. Is part of the VR experience physically controlling knobs, pushing buttons? How does that compare? Is it a disadvantage to have to do that when someone on a controller or PC is just hitting buttons? So I'm sure they're going to have to address competitive issues like that. And an initial thought might just be, we'll have different view modes like all those games typically have, or racing games where first person versus cockpit versus third person. But I don't know if that works when you're integrating competitive VR as well. And I'm curious to see how they address all those design issues with all these different versions playing each other, and what's fair, and if they actually start doing VR only online and stuff like that. It's not something that's done very often, so I'm really curious to see design wise how they address those things.
Yeah, they also had like the space missions in Battlefront 2, which were pretty fun, but it wasn't really the same type of gameplay that you would want in a single player space shooter game. It was pretty much like go out, die quickly, respawn, do it all over again. Whereas this type of game, if it's what I would assume it's closer to the TIE Fighter X-Wing. Is you want to be able to survive, you want to be able to, take down all your targets and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how they change the design to make it more like that.
Yeah, I think they said 5-on-5. I'm assuming it's like rounds of 5-on-5. Last person standing wins the round, stuff like that.
Yeah,
probably more goal-oriented stuff, like capture the flag-ish, where you're doing bombing runs. They talked about bombers and all these different ship types.
Yeah,
that could be cool. I'm actually really excited for this game. So
there is still single player too, which so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm curious what's going to happen based on it's EA and it's Star Wars. Like, I just feel like there's just this, feeling out there that people are already not expecting anything good from this. And they, as we've already been saying with EA, people want to hate this game for some reason. I hope that's not the case. I mean, I hope that the game comes out and Star Wars fans are happy. I don't see why you wouldn't be excited about this if you were a Star Wars fan. But I think the 5-person squad thing is a unique part of this game as well.
I find it interesting that they waited so long to announce this game. Like 4 months out is a pretty short time frame. Maybe it kind of came together quickly or something, and they wanted to just push it out for the holiday season or something. But it seems like for a Star Wars product, you'd want to give it a little more hype time. But I guess maybe it's because it's a Star Wars product, you don't need the hype time. Like, people just buy it regardless. So save your marketing money, I guess.
Well, I mean, we're saying that there's not a lot coming out for the holidays right now. I feel like there is going to be stuff, but I think because of COVID and because of like all the uncertainty with the next gen stuff, like I feel like a lot of people are just waiting to announce or waiting to see if they are going to be ready for holidays. So maybe that's why some of these announcements are coming in late, but I honestly don't know what the situation is going to be come September. So I guess we'll see.
All right. The next thing, I'm not going to spend too much time on it unless you guys have anything to say. Just acknowledging next. Oh, sorry. Sports first. I skipped sports. I also don't have too much to say about this. A little bit of footage of FIFA and Madden. I'm assuming in a next-gen context, but that wasn't really clear. And that's coming to Steam. I think FIFA on Steam was probably the biggest thing in their eyes that they announced. NHL not there, but apparently
UFC.
They have announced it's coming. But I'm glad they didn't dedicate the usual 20 minutes to talking about the new version of the sports games, because we know they're coming. I think that's kind of a waste in these press conferences. But
I'm a little surprised. I mean, it was literally just a sizzle reel, like, hey, we've got sports games, but, not really highlighting a lot of new stuff. So,
no,
I'm okay with that. These games kind of sell themselves, and I'm sure people are sick. I'm sure they've heard people are sick of having 20 minutes dedicated to them every time, unless there's something big to talk about.
Yeah, they also showed no NBA and no UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting that so many absent games in their sizzle reel.
Next was a small sizzle reel for next-gen games with DICE, EA Motive, BioWare, and Criterion. It was
more like tech. It was more like a tech preview.
It's more of an acknowledgement that we're not showing any next-gen stuff, and we are working on next-gen stuff. Well, duh. I hope you are, or else you're not going to have much to sell in the next few years. So I don't know. Nothing blew me away. They weren't highlighting anything. Like,
I mean, this is where
veins. We've got eyeball veins.
Yeah,
huge.
This is where, coming off of the PlayStation press conference, it just felt like, why are you even having this press conference if you have nothing to show?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on then.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. And finally, Skate, which again is EA trying to please people, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, because I know a lot of people wanted this game, and every year after their thing, it's like, where's Skate 4? Where's Skate? All this stuff. And with the name 4 or Skate 4, whatever it's called, I mean, I couldn't help but draw comparisons to Metroid Prime 4, and that this felt like it was, let's kind of, we don't have a lot to show, but let's just say it exists.
They literally showed nothing. They didn't even have a After Effects little piece.
I actually prefer this version of like a few of the developers talking. And I mean, I'm not that familiar with who worked on it, or I've played it a bit. From what I hear, it's really great. I've never been that into skateboarding games, but I mean, I guess it's neat that they announced it, but didn't really mean too much to me.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't really played any of them. I think I tried a little bit of the first one, but I guess it's kind of interesting in that it's coming right after there's a Tony Hawk new game. Well, not new game, but that the franchise is returning in some way. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but
yeah, people we're sick of skateboarding games. Now there's been a bit of a lull. Let's bring them back, which I'm cool with. And let's do the same thing for rhythm games. Give me 3 Rock Band and Guitar Hero games a year. All I want. And new instruments, please. All right. That's it for the press conference. They had like this kind of meta game for free codes, and Greg Miller was doing.
Yeah, I tried that out.
You did?
Yeah, I guess you just basically get entered in a contest to win a free copy of a game from like a list of 20 on Steam.
Oh,
it's just, that's right. You give them your email address. You confirm that you want to receive future emails.
Yes, exactly.
Oh man! All right,
I have two little thoughts, random thoughts. No BioWare, no Dragon Age 4, no nothing from BioWare. Surprising.
Big rumor was Mass Effect remasters.
Yes. And nothing, absolutely radio silent. So that is interesting.
They did mention BioWare in the next gen thing somewhere, just basically saying they're working on something.
Tech, and I think it was related to Dragon Age.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like maybe there was like some sort of like black wall with like veiny things on it. I was like, oh, that looks like that could be Dragon Age, but I don't think they explicitly said anything. Of course, their studios.
Press release. It was somewhere that like it was in there because the article I read specifically acknowledged Dragon Age team or something like that, which I agree. In the video, that was not clear to me.
Yeah. And then the other thing, especially after watching Sony's press conference, which was so tight with so much gameplay, like I went back and I looked. So this video on the EA YouTube channel is 50 minutes and 5 seconds. Guess how much actual gameplay footage was shown. I went back and I counted.
Okay, so does this include in-game cinematics?
Yes. Okay. It also includes shitty title cards that were embedded within gameplay.
Okay, because let's say this first. If it doesn't include in-game cinematics, I think it might be less than a minute.
Yeah, I think so.
2 minutes.
Well, the Star Wars Squadrons thing was probably longer than a minute, right?
A lot of it was cinematic stuff though. Like there was not a lot of actual controlled gameplay. I think it's under 2 minutes.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just crazy. Okay, let me take a guess here. 7 minutes and 45 seconds.
Ooh. That's
5 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, you guys are coming real low. But not too low, actually. It was 16 and a half minutes.
Okay.
So that includes 4 minutes for Apex Legends, 5 and a half minutes for Squadrons. So basically those two were 60% of the time. And then there was like, I even counted that minute and a half of the sports bullshit reel. And then Rocket Arena was a couple of minutes. Lost in Random, It Takes Two was like 30 seconds. Command and Conquer, Sims 4, those are all like a minute. So like literally there was nothing. They showed nothing. It was just so much talking. Like I'm glad Greg Miller got paid probably as much money as he did to do this because he was on screen more than the games were, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it felt like I said at the beginning, like 5 years old in terms of its.
It's like they're going for like a time slot. Like they paid ABC for an hour time slot and they had to fill it, but they forgot they're on YouTube, so it doesn't matter. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, it was interesting. Again, I don't like to hate on EA. I feel like I defend them sometimes, but not a lot to defend here. Got to be honest.
I'm just saying, if they made it a tight 20, and had like a slight padding between all the stuff, it would have been fine.
Yeah,
but
it
they
just
padded out with.
Want to call it out.
Yeah, I don't. It was so. I was like, thank God I could skip ahead. Like this is painful to watch.
Poor EA. I mean, not really poor there.
Yeah. Well, they should literally just watch that Sony press conference and then copy them from now on.
Which everyone should do because Sony's been doing that for 5 years. It's just about games. That's it. And Xbox has started to copy it. I think Phil Spencer. It's like world exclusive.
I just don't get it.
Console exclusive, and it's just gameplay after gameplay, and that's really all people want.
I just don't get it because there must be more to show just based on the fact that they have all these studios that are obviously not doing nothing, but they're sitting on it either because it's not ready or I don't know why, because they just don't think it's the right time to show it.
They have to be perfect. If they show something and it can be turned into a meme or something like that, like
I guess that's true.
That's all people want to do with their stuff. So
you know what? I bet the Squadrons thing was supposed to be the big thing, but then I heard it got leaked. I don't know it got leaked, but then they showed it on the Jeff Keighley thing, or it came out like a couple days ago. So I mean, you've already undercut your big showstopper by doing that. Like what a pain. It must suck though if it got leaked to have that happen to them. Like they have literally one thing to show and it gets leaked. Like what a pain in the ass.
It's a case where it's coming out in 4 months or whatever and no one knows about it.
Yeah. Oh, it's too bad. They get shit on so bad.
All right. Well, I'm done shitting on them for now. Let's I guess, Sean, did you want to talk about the Upload VR stuff? I took a brief look at an article. Any highlights you want to mention?
I don't like. Nothing really stood out to me. It was just interesting to watch because there were so many games I had never heard of. Like I think the only thing I heard of, which came at the very end, was DLC for Vacation Simulator. So I mean, it's just if you're interested in VR, give it a look. Like it's a full hour showcase on YouTube, and it's stuff that's both for Oculus and for PSVR and some of the other platforms, but just a lot of weird indie stuff. And I mean, it's tough with VR stuff to judge, to see a trailer and really get a sense of what the game is. And a lot of them look pretty like low tech just because it's VR and it doesn't look great on screen, so it's tough. But it's just something. I would just give a plug and say go check it out if you're into VR. I mean, the only thing that I saw that kind of looked interesting, I know there's a game that's coming to PSVR next month that's been out for a while on Oculus called Pistol Whip. It's like an action game where you have to like shoot people to the beat of the music or something. Kind of interested in that. And then there was some other game called Traffic Jams that's kind of like you're directing traffic, and it sounds like it wouldn't be that fun, but I could see how it could be actually kind of fun.
This is the new genre, like Overcooked and
exactly.
Moving out, take menial tasks and
Job Simulator,
turn them into games. Yeah,
definitely.
I didn't know this. I don't know if this is even a real source or whatever. Like, there's a website called Upload VR. Is that who was doing this?
Yeah.
Conference? Okay. All right. Because they have a news article saying, not related to Upload VR, that the PSVR is compatible with PS5.
Oh, okay.
Which I had not heard officially, but they're saying all that we've said to date, and we're not adding to it tonight, is the current PlayStation VR is compatible with PS5.
Good to know.
That is kind of cool. Okay.
And who said Sony doesn't do backwards compatibility? Come on.
What we've been playing, Sean or Andrew, do you want to go first?
I have nothing.
Okay. So I got a few things, but I think I'll just focus on The Last of Us, because obviously you're going to talk about The Last of Us Part 2, and I just literally finished the first one last night, and I know I'm like 10 years late on this, but
just 7.
Well, okay, I'm kind of interested in the conversation that's going on right now with Part 2. And I'm curious to play it, because it seems like there's a lot of talk about how it's an amazing artistic achievement, but it's maybe not quote unquote fun. Like it's a struggle, it's a brutal, bleak game. And I heard that, and I've been playing through the first one, and that kind of is my experience with the first one a bit. But I got to say, by the time I got to the end of the game, I kind of came around on it. Like, not that I didn't like it to begin with, but like it was less of a struggle for me. And I don't know if it's just that I got more weapons along the way, but I also feel like I started to understand. I don't think I was playing The Last of Us the right way. Like, I think, my mentality is always like, kill everything in this area, move on. But I think the point of the game is just that you're supposed to survive by the skin of your teeth. And if you got to sneak by stuff, if you got to run down a corridor to get through a door, you do that. And once I started to realize that, is it a little bit more enjoyable. I also started to I bought.
Before you move on, I just want to. I don't think that's the case, because if you start to approach the game that way, there's areas where you cannot do that. Like, you can get by everyone just to find out, oh, I have to make a noise, or it won't even let me open this thing until I kill everyone. So it doesn't allow you to even go into an area with that mindset necessarily, because you could do that and just realize it was a complete waste of time. I have to kill everyone. So, I mean, it's a minor flaw, but it's a flaw to me. And obviously, the thing I talked about last time, whether you use guns or weapons, they kind of just cap you out at a certain level, and then whatever you use the most, they give back to you anyway. So it doesn't feel, even on the hardest difficulty, it was like that for me, because they don't want people stuck in a section where they literally can't progress because they don't have enough stuff. So
yeah,
it's a small problem. I don't think it's major, but it is a weird design issue.
I agree with you. Like, there is still that, like, I guess I just wasn't even thinking that was ever an option, but at least knowing that, well, okay, maybe I don't have to kill everyone here, or, it seems like overall it was a better strategy to try and sneak by if you could. But I think that also towards the end, I finally bought the extra holsters. I didn't have those through most of the game. And I was like, this is a game changer. Like, it just makes so much more, so many more weapons available on the spur of the moment. So that was big for me. Just little things like that along the way, I was like, okay, I missed this, or it's on me, but like, it made things a little bit easier. Certainly, I think there were still scenarios that I played over and over again until I sort of, as you were saying, Frank, figured out, like, am I supposed to go here? Am I supposed to kill these people first? Like, it was always a bit unclear, but
I had no issues with that necessarily. I decided to kill everything every time.
Okay.
Except for one area on survival, I was able to skip in the school. Other than that, I killed everything, and I liked it.
Okay. Sounds like you're good for part 2 then. But, I mean, the other thing I will say is I thought the story was actually pretty impressive. Like, I know you were saying a couple of weeks ago, like, when you're replaying it, you don't sit and watch those cutscenes. And I get that. I don't know if that's totally a fair comparison. And, replaying a game is not quite the same as rewatching a movie, I don't think. But I just thought,
when you're talking about story, it is. That's all within the context of the best stories. And
yeah, but I guess maybe to me, it's not about the technical stuff that's happening in a cutscene, but I just felt like this game does take you on a journey, and it feels like you've come a long way by the time you get to the end, and the changing of the seasons and all that stuff I thought was a cool touch.
Don't get me wrong, it's one of the best stories in games.
Yeah, like, I think it's definitely in that conversation.
I was just talking about game stories in general, and there are a few exceptions that are still flawed in some ways.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm
spoiler
actually
territory. I gotta ask. I feel bad. Like, honestly, genuinely feel bad. 8 or 7 years removed, whatever it is, for the artwork I made for that episode, which was a spoiler. It included a moment with an animal. And
oh yeah, well, you've been talking about that moment for years, but I mean, you're not the only one. A lot of people have talked about it.
But I genuinely feel bad because that's ruined stuff for me before too. So I'm sorry if I spoiled that for anyone with my artwork on the website. I've had that happen to me, and I wish I didn't do that.
It is a cool moment, though. Even I kind of knew it was coming, but I like the way they play it out.
And the last end credit song, what a banger!
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, so I could say I am looking forward to part 2, actually, based on all this. Like, at first I thought, oh man, am I going to be able to jump right into another one? But I'm down for it. But I was going to ask, I think you said you played the Left Behind DLC. Is that worth checking out?
And I feel like my thoughts on that were kind of on point in terms of them experimenting with moving back and forth with narratives and doing more interesting storytelling, similar to film, and editing in a certain way rather than playing everything linearly. And that's already being incorporated into The Last of Us 2 at the beginning. And I feel like that was their way to experiment with those ideas. I'm sure there are actually technical issues with stuff like that. Like, if you're cutting to different areas and not like pre-rendering video, having to have that stuff loaded and ready to go, it's not as easy as you might think it is. So I loved the Left Behind DLC. I think you'll like it a lot.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Maybe
Definitely
I'll check that out first.
And so should I get into Last
Sure.
of Us? So I'm about 5 or 6 hours in. I started it at midnight last night and played till 5 a.m. And then played a bit more today. But I'm not going to do any spoiler. I'll just say I'm really enjoying it so far. All I'm going to talk about, if you're playing, just some techgasms, some stuff I've seen. And honestly, the artwork is incredible. The lighting, like, it looks like a concept painting brought to life. It's crazy. And it's not just that it's realistic. Like, it looks like concept art in the best way possible. The best way I can that's the best way to describe it. There's one section, I'll skip ahead. It's like an early morning in the snow. And I've never felt a game with lighting capture the feeling of an early morning in the winter. It's perfect. It's crazy how good it is. Like the sunrise, like, it is incredible. So let me just go through some of these techgasms here. Tassels on backpacks or zipper tassels, zipper grips, moving while they're moving. Oh my God. This is a really, I kind of want to go back and watch this cutscene just to see this again. Sleeping bag tech. Sleeping bag moves in a cutscene, and I was like, wow, that looks like a sleeping bag. That's incredible. Holy shit, that blew my mind. This is kind of a cliche tech one, but this is the best I've ever seen it, albeit I haven't played that much Red Dead. Snow footprints. And I'll add a second one. Tire tracks in snow. Incredible. Braided ponytail. You'll know it when you see it. It's pretty amazing. A bloody face, which is like the detail and some of the violence. I know we talked about this a bit, but it is very lifelike and effective. I haven't got to any of the more, I don't know. It hasn't been as gratuitous as I thought it would be based on what we talked about. Feels pretty calculated in its violence. Although the deaths, when you get hit by a clicker and it's the classic Naughty Dog death cutscene, which started in Crash Bandicoot. There's something about the look of that and the eyes. Thinking about is it the woodsman in Twin Peaks?
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
The white of the eyes. You see the white of the eyes, and like it almost feels cartoony, but in an amazing way. It's really expressive. Oh my god. This game's amazing so far. I mean, it is so impressive. Just the real life models, and I'm assuming there's some photogrammetry stuff here. I'm not sure, but in that winter scene, the stop sign and the electrical pole. I stopped and looked. I don't do this. Like I'm not one of these people who plays a game and is like, check out every piece of artwork. And this is just me playing. The feeling of it being a real place. All these places feeling completely authentic, and a street that's like 5 minutes or not even 2 minutes in the game. The street signs, the stop sign, the electrical post felt so real. Ridiculous.
It's Seattle, right?
You don't want to say.
Okay.
I guess I can say the part I'm talking about is not Seattle.
Okay.
But I am in Seattle now.
Okay.
I'm not going to say, but I am in Seattle.
No, that was in their video as well, that, you know, the game takes place in Seattle for the most part. And I think that's it for the techgasms so far. Not to say there weren't like minor techgasms. These are the majors.
So I want to jump in here on the techgasms because I have really not been that interested in this game because of the extreme violence they seem to be. Like, I don't have a problem with it, but it's just not my cup of tea. But I just watched, I was telling these guys beforehand, a Digital Foundry tech review for this game. And like, it is so impressive what they talk about. And just seeing it in a compressed YouTube video and it's still looking so realistic and so well, just everything is incredible. And like some of the stuff, like I was telling Frank about something they talk about, he hasn't even noticed this yet. So if you guys are interested in seeing like a full-on detailed tech breakdown of all the crazy shit Naughty Dog can pull off, go search out this Digital Foundry video. It's just called Last of Us Part 2 Digital Foundry Tech Review. It's incredible. I'm not even through the whole thing. I still have like 5 minutes left, but I'm so impressed with everything they talk about here and being able to pull it off not like on a PS4 is incredible. Now, I don't have a PS4 Pro. I don't know how that's going to factor into the display, but I imagine it'll still look incredible because it's Sony first party, and they'll probably pull out all the stops to make it look good.
Let me throw in another, I wouldn't even say minor, medium techgasm. The grass, the long grass, how much grass is there? Like, it's not like a green plain with little tufts of grass here and there. There's grass everywhere. So cool.
Well, in this tech video, they talk about different types of foliage that you walk through, and
fern.
also
fern with a horse.
Oh, okay, that's what they're showing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also, have you done any swimming yet?
No, I didn't know you could swim. Thanks.
Wow.
Last I checked, Ellie couldn't swim. Spoiler. Hello.
Just wait till you get some swimming parts. And have you gotten any parts where it's raining yet?
It just started raining, bud.
Oh, I lost it when I saw some of the just how the characters look with the rain on them. I was like, that could be a real person standing there. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It looks so real. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna have to pick this game up now. I can't wait for the library to reopen. I gotta buy this baby.
Shit, I had another one that reminded me of. Talking about the grass, swimming. Shit, walking through the fern with the horse, which was amazing. It really was. I stopped. I did it 3 times. It was so cool.
I don't know how long they say this game's like 20 to 30 hours. I am the guy that stops and looks at all that crazy shit. Like, I know when the original Red Dead came out, I literally just stood and looked at the nighttime skybox for like 20 minutes and was just so impressed with that stupid skybox. And my friends who were over were like, "What the hell are you even looking at?" Like, I'm like, "Do you not even see this? It's incredible." So I'm gonna be spending like all day looking at this stupid game.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure you can look forward to us talking about it for the next 4 to 8 weeks, probably.
My goal is to be done platinum by Tuesday.
Well, it's going to take me a while, I'm sure. So
they've definitely improved the trophy lists. And I have to say, best moment in the game so far for me. I believe an optional moment. They have I don't know if this has been in stuff. I won't say what it is. I'll just say it uses the touchpad. And it's not the first thing you do with the touchpad. It's an optional moment with the touchpad that was amazing. And it's something I typically don't like, and something that's been used in a lot of other video game trailers and stuff like that. Oh my God, it was so good.
Oh, see, I was going to say you use it to pet your horse.
No.
But after that, I think it's going to be some sort of like chalk on paper rubbing mechanic.
No.
Oh, no. Oh, well then.
Like the fact that they put this much effort into what I'm talking about is insane. How much work it must have been. Anyway, you'll know what it is, I would say, in the first 5 minutes of the game. But that's not the part I'm talking about. And I'm sure there's a big payoff to this later down the road as well. It's pretty impressive, gotta say. And again, the title screen, the menus, they have the best menus. The only downside to playing the Uncharted Collection remaster is I don't get that original menu. It's like a redone menu. Give me that original Naughty Dog menu. So good. This menu rules. Okay, I guess I'll briefly say I platinumed God of War. I went through it again. It's weird. By the end, I'm kind of torn on the game. I would have said this was one of my favorite games, top 5 PlayStation 4 games. I don't know if I feel that way anymore. I have to kind of evaluate it as 2 different games. The single player version of the game is like a 9.5. It's amazing. I still feel that the combat is too complicated. I hate when games have pauses. Like, do something, pause, then you'll switch stances, then do something else. The combat system is way too intricate. There's too much stuff. I don't use any of it. I know that doesn't matter. It's there for people who want to use it. But I got to say, I've been spoiled by Sekiro. Every new ability I got mattered. I used it. I switched between them. Sekiro has ruined combat for me, and I want more stuff like Sekiro, and going and playing other combat is just not as good. I'm sorry, it's not as intuitive. It doesn't make as much sense, and I always did not like the complication of the gear in that game. The handles, all these different things you customize. It's just like which stats you want to boost. Just let me invest in those stats rather than having to switch all this armor and do all this stuff. Hate that stuff. Not for me. But I still love the single player stuff. Amazing moments. Looks amazing. But I got to say it. I'm sorry. Same with Control. This is one of the worst maps. And this is relating to the game as an open game. When you do all the optional stuff at the end and try to platinum it. As an open world game, it sucks. You can't backtrack through stuff. The fast travel is so annoying. There's not enough gates to travel through. I have to travel to the bottom of a Valkyrie room just so I can take an elevator up because there's some arbitrary path blocked. I cannot go from area to area. It is the most annoying map, possibly, well, next to Control. Control is the worst map in video game history. This, for a beloved game, is one of the worst maps ever. And getting from place to place only to find out in the end game, some roots have spawned over something and you can't go back that way. The worst. Hate it so much. I was snapping. I was even angry yesterday. I talked to my buddy Bryn. He listens. It was his birthday and I was ranting. I've cooled down a bit. Last of Us, you've helped cool me down. Gotta be honest, Last of Us 2. I was fired up when I finished this game yesterday. I was playing on easy. Just for fun, to platinum this thing. I was sick of playing everything on hard difficulties. The last Valkyrie boss on easy took me 2 hours. I beat Sekiro. It's easy. What the fuck? Who are these heroes? What is the point?
Hey, Frank, speaking of maps, just going to throw one out for you because I was recently playing it. I'm not going to talk. I'll save this for another episode, but how do you feel about the map in Fez? Do you remember it at all?
Remember it.
It's pretty...
I honest, Fez, and maybe this is related to the map. I remember loving the game, right? And then there's a moment where you're supposed to go into a room and understand that there's some dialogue translation you have to do. And I don't feel like it taught me what I was supposed to do in that moment. I was like, I'm lost. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. But I don't remember this map specifically.
Isn't it just like a big graph?
It
like
is.
With a bunch of squares on it?
Let me look up.
But it's weird because like when you move between them, it doesn't always go where you want it to. And as a whole, I found it a little bit tricky to navigate the world and try to orient yourself sometimes. I feel like there could have been maybe something a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of like it. I gotta be honest. I don't remember how functional it was, but I will say, is a spoiler? Probably not. There is a map element to Last of Us 2. And I mean, I called out Ori for the delay of bringing out your map.
Mm-hmm.
A little different because that's like a Metroid game where the map is typically it's on screen. It's so important. But like to break out the map takes a really long time. Minor quibble, but the map itself is so fucking cool. That's a map.
Worth waiting for.
That's map integration. So cool. Anyway, it's I'm loving it so far. I kind of see where it's headed with some of these storylines. I hope the payoff is what I'm expecting. Sorry, I'm jumping back to Last of Us. But God of War, really liked it. Single player game, amazing as an open world game. And it's not that I don't appreciate some of the open world stuff because I like that they put so much optional content in it, but it does feel a bit like juicing. All the back and forth travel and how long it takes. Just let me fast travel places. I mean, this is a waste of my fucking time.
You talking about the inventory on God of War just kind of reminded me. I've been playing more of the Outer Worlds, and I haven't really played too much, but there's the thing that gets me down with these games, these Bethesda style RPGs, is just there's so much shit to pick up. I have like 1,000 ammo for every gun. Now I'm playing on easy, so that they're probably overloading me with stuff. I have like so many items. I constantly get encumbered. I constantly have to sell shit. It's like such a pain in the ass. It's fine because they do have a good fast travel system where I can go basically anywhere, hop back and forth as long as I've been there one time, which is fine. But at the same time, when you're doing that much stuff, when basically you're encouraging people to only travel over terrain one time and then never go there again, like why make everything so far away? I don't quite understand that aspect of these gigantic open worlds.
I totally agree. Okay, keep going, and then I'll add on to that.
Well, I was just gonna say also that like there's just so many weapons, there's so much inventory, you get tons of duplicates, you have all these characters you're trying to keep track of, so many side missions that really are pointless. And I'm starting to now. I was doing all the side missions, and I realized like there's no point in doing all this stuff because all the enemies just scale with you. So I might as well just do the main quest line.
All the stuff you're saying is basically perfect in Sekiro. And if it wasn't for the wall grab being very, very finicky and annoying, and the grapple points being so arbitrary and annoying, it might be the best game ever. The platforming elements, if they can improve those for Sekiro 2, forget it. Everything is so important. Like you get such calculated, like, okay, we're giving you this power and it feels like a power. It's so good. And the responsiveness of the combat system is so good. Oh my God. Sekiro has ruined video games for me. It's so good.
How long do you think it took you to like get it? You know, because I remember playing that, you had just gotten it I think we were recording Film Junk 700.
Yeah.
I think at your place. And I played that game for probably 45 minutes to an hour and got my ass handed to me the whole time. Like, how long did it take you to really like get that game to understand the nuances?
Well, I think, like, Neo helped me because it's very offensively based, and there's a boss fight that people talk about in the game where Dark Souls players are like, well, I'm kind of getting owned. You have to be more aggressive, and I think I was more aggressive out of the gate. Probably 2 hours, I think.
Okay.
Like, because I'd ddone that demo thing you did, and I got killed too. But then when I went back and started the game, it was all kind of making sense to me. So, and it's real. I mean, Bloodborne's next. When Last of Us 2 is done, Bloodborne, I'm looking at you. I'm coming for you.
I thought you beat that game already.
No, I played Bloodborne, but I never beat it. So it's next. And this is my other rant I had yesterday. And it's kind of getting into what you were talking about with Outer Worlds. Game developers, I know this idea of value and how long games are. Start thinking about gamers wanting to play lots of games. Like, don't make your game 50 hours for the sake of making it 50 hours. I'll play it twice if I like it. Or even better, have incentives to play it twice, make it nice and tight and interesting, but something that has a reason to play it more than once. And I really think one thing I'd love to see in games, another thing I hate, and thank you, Fallen Order, for finally doing this. Even though it's not what I want. I want to be able to go to an area and do everything in that area. I don't want to see some arbitrary box with a power I can't, I know I'm capable of backtracking. It's not that much fun. It's just a way of making your game longer and having arbitrary gates. I love being able to go into an area, all the puzzles relating to anything I have make sense within that area. Think of gamers' time. Sean, you don't have a lot of time. And value.
That's true.
Like, think of movies. That's why movies are great. There are obviously some movies that are 90 minutes and some that are, probably at most 3.5 hours, let's say. But it's like, I can try different movies. I can watch different movies. I can do different things. And it's kind of a known experience. Like, I want to play a lot of games. And when I have to play a game for 100 hours.
I mean, yeah, but the part of it is they're trying to cater to people who only buy a couple of games a year and they want to get the most out of it, right? But I mean, what you're talking about, I actually like. Backtracking, yes, can get tedious, but I like the idea of seeing something in a game and being like, okay, I can't do that yet, but I will be able to eventually. And then when you come back and you can do it, then it feels amazing because you're like, I can do this now.
And this is the thing I hate, and this is why I said thank you, Fallen Order. I want the game to tell me you can't get this yet, or you can.
Yeah, I agree.
So
sometimes being more clear with that. Yeah.
And that's a good idea. Like the map being locked off, finally saying you can't get in there yet. Don't even bother exploring this. It's a waste of your time. Thank you. I would do it with a pop-up if you're near something. By the way, you don't have this power yet. Because then if it doesn't happen, I know, okay, I need to think. I need to solve this puzzle and that's interesting too. I'm like, I have everything I need to do this. Use your brain. And I remember Batman Arkham games kind of being like that too, where it was, I actually can get this. I think I can't, but I can. And I just wish the game would tell me. I know a lot of people probably don't like that. This is a very personal opinion for someone who buys a lot and wants to play a lot of games, but
at least in the Arkham games, it was just the Riddler trophies you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were tiny little things that weren't necessarily, you didn't have to do a ton of backtracking or anything to like get out of where you just got yourself into. They were just kind of like along the path kind of bonus stuff.
Oh my God, I was so mad at God of War by the end. I was done. Oh, Sekiro, I love you. All right. I think that's it.
I think we did it.
Somehow we juiced. Speaking of juicing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Big time. All right again. Let's say it again. We'll be back next week. I don't know if there's any big news coming up. I'll definitely have wrapped up Last of Us, I would assume. I'll give you my thoughts on that, and maybe there'll be some other big news in gaming. So until then, bye-bye.
See ya.
Huck, your eyes do you have allergies? Like your eyes are watering like crazy.
Yeah, I know. I got something in my eye yesterday, like near the end of the day, and I can't get it out, and it just keeps, yeah. So it's this eye.
Yeah.
I can't get it out of there.
You could see water dripping at one point.
Yeah, I just can't get it out of there. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna go flush my eyes again right now because it feels like it's gotten worse over the course of this recording it. But yeah, I don't know what happened. I was outside. I felt something in there. I was like digging around trying to get it out, and I thought I did, but yeah, it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
All right.
Flush that eye.
Yeah, I hear the kids
All right.
rampaging upstairs, so I gotta go.
Right.